Hello, I am Wargames. I'm a GM for Tales of Rokugan. Some of the other GMs are Drag and Tolta. Say hello.
Drek here.
Hey, this is Tolta.
Um, so what Tales of Rokugan is an online living game for Legend of Five Rings. It's a combination of play-by-post and chat. We are currently in the pre-season of the game, which is mainly here to test out the systems and rules we have in place, and generally get players and GMs used to the game. We wanted the preseason to take place before the main game, but have some influence on it. So we decided to have the game take place about 20 to 25 years before the game. We found a good timeline in L5R's history, at least AEG's L5R history, about 903. Because around this time, you have a whole bunch of things happen. Winter Court Kaiden Hida, and a lot of things described in Bears of Jade. You have a few mentions here and there of people assaulting like the tomb of Ichiban, which there were several, but somehow they figured out where the real one is. But plots like that fail. You have mentions of other events that happen, but overall it's a fairly peaceful time in Rokugan's history, year 900. So we thought that'd be a good time to put Tales of Rokugan. Really what we're here to talk to you guys about is the first act of Tales of Rokugan, at least the preseason. Because what we have a season of events broken up into 3-week chunks. We play for 3 weeks, we give players and teams a break to, allow players to interact with themselves, talk about what's happening, and plan and formulate what they need to do for the next 3 weeks. Me and Tolta have been in games where it's just a blitz for 6 weeks, and it can get very stressful for both GMs and players. The break week for GMs is there so that we can just catch up on paperwork. Any requests that may have slipped through the cracks we can address, and generally tweak the plans for Act 2, because players always ruin every single plan you have. Would you both agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Half of the plots we didn't write, the players came up with.
True.
Players don't ruin the plot, players fill in the holes.
But yeah, overall, I think we have very lightly planned preseason. I mean, we have an overall plan for Winter Court, the preseason of Winter Court for Tales of Rokugan. But a lot of the stuff we have run has just been unplanned. It's not in any of our documentation. It's, what would be fun? What would be interesting to have?
Yeah, that's definitely 100% true for me anyway. Everything I've ran so far was been kind of like ad lib, or just off the top of my head so far. I mean, it obviously ties into like the overall thing, but you kind of just think of something and you go with it, and like as you're going with it, you get these ideas and like, oh, that'll work. It'll fit in here, etc. Here.
And we'll talk about some of the things that we just completely invented off the cuff because, hey, why not?
I think it's probably easier to say, or maybe just it's more accurate to say that we're running events plotline and events based as opposed to a set storyline.
That is definitely what we're doing. We have a whole bunch of events planned, and they roughly follow an outline. For main game, I think we have a bit more. We definitely planned more a central storyline. We definitely just went with, all right, this event sounds good, this event sounds good, let's move on.
Yeah, it's we know this needs to happen and this needs to happen. Everything in between is the players deciding how they get there.
So let's talk about our week 1 plans that we written down and what actually happened in week 1. So for week 1, we had 3 political and 1 military event planned. Who will answer the crab's call for bodies to go to Shirahiruma?
I mean, that was pretty straightforward. It was just kind of like a roll call type of thing, you know.
And the players, we did not know that they were going to Shirahiruma. We said, pick a sphere, political and military.
That's true, yeah.
We said, hey, if you're military sphere, you deal with military things. If you are political, you probably do some winter court talky stuff. But then when we did a big opening event, that was just completely blindsided them. Because I'm pretty sure most of them suspected that, hey, we're in a winter court, we'll probably stay on in the side of Rokugan and on the wall. But we like to change things up and surprise our PCs. So with the call to go to Shirahiruma, some people did switch spheres from military to political. That was an option for players. They chose. So we allowed them to change from political to military. The next event that we had planned was an announcement for the betrothal to the eldest heir of the Hantai. This is kind of an Act 1 goal, in that the political sphere players get to argue and fight over that. Some surprising candidates came forward and took a very early lead.
Say that again.
It seems as though the Sparrow has the support of some minor clans. At first it was Kasuga, Badger, Hare, but then 2 Great Clans decided to speak up on behalf of the Sparrow. Scorpion players and Crab players.
Yeah, and then some interesting NPC disadvantage stuff for one of the players made the tortoise switch sides to the crane.
But I do believe the Dragon and Unicorn also pledged support for the Sparrow early on, but week 2 political stuff happened and they switched side to support a Dragon candidate. The Kasuga has a very bad obligation to an Atomo, and Atomo and Crane are friends. So we decided to use that against the Kasuga player and told him, hey, you don't get to support who you want to support. You have to support the Crane. And Drake, you did drop that news, so how did the Kasuga take that?
He was kind of torn. Obviously, he's playing up the obligation disadvantage to an Atomo. He's playing it up really well, and it seems like he's gonna, stay true to that. But he's playing the fence on both sides. He's playing for information that'll help him with a Sparrow candidate and for a Crane candidate at the same time. So it's pretty interesting to see him, struggle with the decision between his obligation disadvantage and his character's actual desire to support a minor clan.
So overall, we're in week 3 of Act 1, and I'm planning on finishing up this week with the results of who gets to marry the heir of the Hantai. And right now, the Sparrow has a clear lead. It's still going to be difficult to really pick out who's going to win that, but they are very likely to win. And this is one of the carryover effects from Winter Court 2 main game, in that if the Hantai ends up marrying a Sparrow, the minor clans get a way bigger effect in courts and political noticing advantage, basically.
Political clout, I guess.
Yes, clout. Thank you. So, that's one of the things we kind of planned into Winter Court of having an effect on the main game. There's not a whole bunch of apparent things that do apply over, but that's one of them. Also, player-made factions, alliances, and whatnot will carry over. That's something that I do enjoy, and I want to try and strengthen that. Another thing that was announced during week 1 was Ruby Championship tournament. Normally I think the Emerald Champion just picks the Ruby Champion, right?
Correct. It's a test of the Emerald Champion. He gets to decide what the test is. He also decides in what way it's administered. So he could decide Kinjutsu is more important than law, or investigation is more important than fighting. It's all on him.
But typically I don't think it's something that's been written about or really described out in great detail of how it's been picked, though. It's all, oh, this person trains all their Emerald Magistrates.
Yeah, that seems to be the way it goes. I mean, like you said, there's not too much written about it, so there's a good amount of leeway we can take.
So for us, we didn't want someone to be Emerald Champion. Because that's clearly defined. It's an Aijutsu tournament. Whoever wins Aijutsu gets to become Emerald Champion. We didn't think that would be a very fun tournament to have. Instead, we pulled a lot of our inspiration from the old 3-ed April's Favorite tournament involving the minor clans. AG put out a little supplement for that. So we have a whole bunch of little micro tournaments to figure out who the champion will be via points. We threw that out there. Players could sign up. We had 5 players out of I don't know how many sign up for that.
Yeah, seemingly, I think 5 is accurate.
Let's see. It is Karasu the Ronin, Usagi Ko the Hare, Yoga Yasuno as the as a scorpion.
Hida.
Kozen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Miyamoto Tashihiro.
Yeah, we only had 5.
Yep, that's the 5. So first, but we'll cover what all happened on week 2 later, because we just did the announcements week 1. Then, but that's everything that was planned. We also had some things that were unplanned, because we decided to have some party games.
Yeah, those got kind of crazy, especially that first one.
That was the storytelling event, correct?
Yeah, with the dragon at the end anyway.
Yep. So we allowed players to roll storytelling to tell a story how they would like. We also allowed some NPC participation, but that was mainly to show the players some antagonization between various factions. Mainly the Scorpion calling out the Kikid Daimyo. There's a reason why we have the Kikida and Scorpion go at it, but that comes during Act 2. We haven't gotten there yet.
No spoilers.
There's reasons. But during this event, we go through all the players' disadvantages, advantages, and whatnot, have a list of things that we can use against them. One of the things that a certain player has is that he has an addiction to sleep meds. So, before he goes up, he has to roll against TN 15 or 20 willpower to not take sleep medication. Luckily, he succeeds and doesn't need sleep medication. Doesn't get a debuff because he's on sleep meds. Other players go up. They make their rolls just fine. Suzumi rolls amazingly well. Has a bunch of raises because,
Not too surprising.
yep, spares are great at storytelling. Then you have a Tagashi. A Tagashi monk, mind you, come in with compulsion, lighting fires, and afraid of the dark. The scene for this storytelling event is, it's dark, there's a bunch of candles, it's to set the mood. The Tagashi fails her willpower roll, her compulsion roll, to light fires. Luckily, she is a transcendent monk, Tagashi, and she has enough raises to be immune to regular fire. So how she gets around setting Kayuden Hida on fire is she lights herself on fire and tells the story that way.
Yeah, that was bonkers.
But she didn't have any raises, but it was spectacular. She doesn't win. The Sparrow does.
The cherry on top was the slight jab at the Scorpion.
Thank you for reminding me. She does misread some of the court stuff that happened in between the Scorpion Daimyo and Kikiri Daimyo, and calls out the Scorpion as being someone who insults the second emperor of Rokugan, Genji. And of course, this is day 1, week 1. That can't happen because she's calling out the Scorpion champion as insulting an emperor. So, Scorpion Daimyo champion has to step up, insists that Tagashi is mishearing or missaying something, and tells her to back down. She luckily backs down. Because I would hate to have to kill a player on day 1 because they didn't understand something.
Yeah, that'd be an odd situation.
The next thing that happened during the opening ceremony was a Sedaine tournament. We had a whole bunch of courtiers play Sedaine and roleplay that.
Just talking trash on each other. I think the highlight of that one was the Asako and Ide.
Yeah, the Ide unicorn. But this is the first time we really got to play with disadvantages. So the Kazuga tried to worm out of the way from the Yogo, I think? Yeah, I think it was Yogo or Soshi challenged the Kasuga to Sedaine. But here's the thing, Sedaine is normally a tortoise specialty. This is a game they like to play. In universe, in story, whatever. And by him declining it, we as GMs felt sad. Felt sad that a Kasuga did not want to play Sedaine, a game that's associated with that clan.
So again, we took advantage of his disadvantage of an obligation to an Atomo, and the Atomo was also present at the time he declined. So the Atomo was like, hey, no, you actually do want to play, so yeah, you're going to play now. And because he was I think the player's a pretty good role player, just in general, but because of the disadvantage, he had to go with it, and he ended up playing. I think he might have even won.
No,
I don't remember.
He did lose.
Oh, okay, there you go.
The Yogo would have gone on to round 2, but had to leave due to real life concerns. But the Ide was really on ball that day, just laid down some smack talk, and eventually won.
Yeah, there was some good stuff going on there. I think we still have the record and stuff.
Yeah, we have to go all the way up though. Following that, we had an athletics-based game, which was catch the goldfish with a very brittle or flimsy fish catcher.
Yeah, I think I took off at the end of the Sarane.
Yeah, it was Kingu Yo Sukoi, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
You catch goldfish with a paper net,
Oh, okay.
and of course, the Usagi comes in with his billion athletics and aces it. That was just like day one of week one.
Yeah, that was all on the first day.
Some things that happen like, I don't know, a couple hours later or the next day is on the wall. We have someone with a disadvantage called Haunted by the Lying Darkness. And we just had a small little scene where they are taunted by the Lying Darkness and told to join them again. Because they missed their child. They just want that samurai to come home, be loved again. You don't have to be rejected anymore.
Oh
Then,
man, that lying darkness is some insidious crap, man.
yep. Didn't pop out any monsters, nothing like that. The Lying Darkness just wants that samurai to join willingly.
Yeah, that was a kind of a smaller, more reserved scene.
But of course, this was never in any of our planning. It's just, hey, a player has this. They are up there on the wall. Let's do it.
Yeah, that was definitely like winging it.
Let's see. Week one. In my notes, some boats happen.
Oh, the boat. The boat. Tulta, where you at?
Yeah, Delta.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
Delta.
boat scene. That boat. That went from nothing, just a drop-in fun scene, to an entire story.
Yeah, that went from 0 to 11.
It was not
real
supposed to
quick.
be anything major. It wasn't supposed to be anything major. It was just supposed to be a fun little run around, fight some things scene. It was not even planned for plot. But afterwards, the PCs came to me, the players came to me, and they wanted to follow this up. They didn't want to just, oh, that was fun. They were like, no, we're going to get into this. We're going to involve ourselves. So I just let them run with it.
Here's what happened during the boat scene. All Tulta wanted to happen is a boat crashes into the docks of Earthquake Fish Bay, a town located near Kaiden Hira. We generally use Earthquake Fish Bay as a non-safe area. We use Kaiden Hira.
It's where
Yeah, go ahead.
it's where I get to play.
Yeah, we use Kaiden Hira as a safe zone. If you are there, chances of you getting injured by random NPC stuff is limited. You still may get challenged. You still may get killed by non-magical entities, like an Akodo that you piss off by quoting dishonorable leadership quotes.
Oh, they're getting a little fast forwarding a little there.
A little bit. But that's generally how we have it set up is Kayuhita is safe, Earthquake Fish Bay is not safe, neither is a wall. That's generally how we set things up. So players go down Earthquake Fish Bay. They see a boat off in the distance, smoking, coming in to crash into the docks of Earthquake Fish Bay. The Badger says, no, this ain't happening. I try and stop it.
It was a little more involved than that.
A little bit more involved with that, so he runs out in front of the players and it's like, alright, to stop a big-ass moving boat, what the hell is the TN for this? It's like,
I think I remember it being like
I think I
60
told
or
him it was
something.
something like 50 or 60.
So what happened is I looked up alright, 5 is this, 10 is this, whatever. 40 is heroic. This is above heroic. So I say 45. Because 60 is considered legendary. So it was like, alright, we set the 10 to be 45. This son of a bitch comes out and rolls a 63 on his strength. because he's a goddamn badger. And it's
Yeah, at that
essentially
point, you just let the player have it. At that point, it's okay. What do you do to it?
yeah, because he was only what 6k6 at the time, and just has this insane roll. So it's like, all right, you basically suplex the boat onto the ground instead of ramming into the dock. Because why not?
He was given options. I gave him like I want to say 3 or 4 options of what he could do according to his role and physics, and he chose to lift it up and circle it over and slam it on the street.
The boat gets body slammed, as it does, because Magical Samurai, this is that type of game. They open up the hold of the boat, and out comes zombies, because why not? And
the Slaughter Spirit.
and a Slaughter Spirit, which we probably should not have bundled with zombies, but
It made everything interesting, plus it kind of set him up for not knowing what to expect next.
since you have a Spirit of Tashigoku and just regular old plain zombies. The Slaughter Spirit did manage to hurt a lot of players, but didn't kill anything. The Spirit tag on a is an interesting tag in the game, because unless you have a Nimron or something, you always cut damage in half, then apply reduction.
It apply Jade doesn't. The Jade cuts through the half, and so does Crystal, and so do Nimurunai. I'm not sure about Obsidian, but the other ones do.
Obsidian should, since it is of the magical elements. So yeah. So that was a start of a complete storyline that we did not have planned. Oh, another thing that happened in week 1 was Atomo taxation. I decided to run a little mini scene about Atomo taxation where the Atomo audit various clans. A simple little scene that the Kasuga forged his documents. So, he cooked the books on that. The Hare and Ichiro do well in their books, but the Hida are at a slight disadvantage because they roll like a 22 out of a 25. And the Dragon rolls like an 8. The way I'm handling that is the Dragon have some sort of climate event in their part of the woods. They have a drought or whatever and are basically starving, as they normally are, because it's hard to grow rice on a mountain. Some other things that happened in Earthquake Fish Bay on week 1. A barroom brawl was proposed.
It was, that was the intent, but it never fully got to that point.
But a duel was issued by one of our Matsu players to a crab NPC. So we had to follow up that the next day and run down players on how to conduct Aijitsu. And the Matsu did win that. Not handily.
Yeah. But it wasn't a big surprise.
Yeah. The crab wasn't super well versed in Aijitsu, but it wasn't completely terrible. I think we had a 2 skill or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Not super great, but some ranks. Then, my favorite scene so far in week 1 was the Hare Air Usagi Nadai being late to a date with his crab girlfriend, and all the hilarity that ensued because of that.
I think I was actually absent for that one. I came in on the tail end of that.
Yeah. Basically, the pragmatist arrives early. She's all dolled up, proper kimono, makeup, but has, the mon of an assistant instructor at the Hida pragmatist school. And there were a couple crab players there, so they know what the pragmatist school is and what it can do. but they're kind of shot because you have a pragmatist there, all dolled up, and her entire thing was being upset at the bunny for being late.
And
But we
then
also
didn't the hair player have to like be his wingman or something?
for a little bit because when the hair heir did arrive, he was rushing because even though he's super quick, he's always late. Hey, you might be a bunny, you might be quick, but you're still late. And he had the hair player had calm him down, make sure he presented himself in the right way, and just basically act as a wingman the entire night. And definitely not tell his mother, the champion, about the event. Sadly, news did get out because we had another player with rumor monger spread some rumors about the hair and his he had a lover.
I ran a goblin scene on the wall. I think there was like six participants. Funny part is there was a since it was a drop-in scene and anyone was welcome. There was a crane, one of the crane courtiers, on the wall, and utterly unprepared. But she ended up killing a couple goblins actually. Just kind of like spur of the moment. I actually got a chance to use some of the cool keywords that the slang that the tribe used. It was neat. And the goblins came over with a goblin berserkers that set themselves on fire and stuff. And they get stronger, but the mud stuff, I forgot what it was called. I don't know if it has a specific name.
It's a mud magic or a magic mud.
Yeah, something like that. But they get stronger, but they eventually I don't know the specifics. Like 3-4 rounds maybe they start taking damage for the fire. But for those 4 rounds, they get stronger, and it was pretty neat. The players I think had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, looks like Toshiro, Kozen, Kazumi, Hana, Karasu, and Mirai part of that one.
Yeah, that one.
And that was just.
We have a couple of players whose characters get around a lot.
Yes, because they are online a lot.
Yeah, we have some of the more active players for sure.
It was mentioned, and it keeps being mentioned over and over, about how we need to be on more during the day. This week I have been on a lot during the day. I've only seen maybe 3, maybe 4 different PCs during the day.
Yeah,
I think it's just it's more of a time zone thing. Like when they say day, it's like they might be talking about their day, which could be our like 4 in the morning.
So yeah, that was just week 1. We ran a whole bunch of scenes. Whole bunch of things happened.
Was it week 1 that I started running the interaction with Juro?
I do believe so.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much right after the boat scene.
Yeah,
I started introducing them to him. I had no idea that was going to be my biggest NPC in the game up to this point. They just wanted somebody to report to, so I gave them all the "here's your spooky Kuni to talk to," and that's what led to all of that.
All the boat scene stuff was Kunijiro, which we have this big list of NPCs that we needed to define in case stuff came up, and if something came up and Kunijiro needed to be that person. Yeah, that was all of week 1. Week 2 we had a couple things planned. At first we had to congratulate the Daidoji defenders of Ichiban's tomb, because in the story they are the defenders of the tomb. They defend attack from blood speakers. That's it. And ours, we congratulate the Daidoji as defenders by the Emperor. Then we conduct the Ruby Championship Lore Law segment, which I scour a whole bunch of books, pull out some facts, ask the questions on the different interpretations of whatever. They can answer it truthfully, as if they know it, or just roll dice. I give them about 5 minutes to write up their answer, hit enter, And overall, some of the players knew Rokugan law better than others, but the results came out all the same. It ended up being a four-way tie with Karasu having to not be there because of real life issues. Something else that happened that was not planned is the Emperor asked, would there be anything else? Because he's the one asking the questions, because why not? The Dragon Miyamoto Tashihiro says, yes, I would like to put forth a request to court. I would like you to honor Ide something.
Oh, you're talking about the player?
Yeah.
Ide Tsutomu?
Yeah, the dragon wanted to congratulate Ide Tsutomu about the posting, so Emperor asked Ide to come forward, give testimony about what happened, congratulated all those participants that happened in the boat scene, and then said to the Ide, hey, after Winter Court, you work for me, you work in the Ministry of Travel. That will be your job after this. So, after Winter Court, the Ide is the Minister of Travel, a status 6 position in the Imperial bureaucracy. Because, hey, he's a unicorn, he's Ide, so he likes to move around. The Emperor also asks if anyone else would like to go to Shiroruma, join the crab. And not a lot of players step forward, but we needed to have the Kid Daimyo and the Scorpion Champion go. So we had the champion call out the Kid Daimyo. That worked pretty well because then Bayushi Tetsuo backed up the clan champion, which is a player. Not champion, but Bayushi is. And yeah, it was just a good scene altogether. That was just everything planned. We didn't have a whole bunch planned for week 2, but a whole bunch of stuff did happen regardless.
Yeah, a lot.
There were 2 boat scenes.
And I don't know. Well, one of them was the cave. Yeah.
No, one of them was the warehouse. That was the second one.
There was the warehouse, the cave, and then I did the actual military mission over the wall.
Okay.
In the warehouse, it was a couple of players in there from the original scene. I think I gained one, maybe. They went in there. They were wanting to investigate the boat, so they went to Juro and got permission. They went down to the boat, but the Tsukai was not an idiot and wanted to cover his tracks and sent some sneaky types to go blow that thing up. So what ended up happening that was funny is it started off the way everybody talks about the bunny now, because he was standing on the explosion and survived. So he was blown off the boat, which was hilarious.
Yeah, he took a full 6k6 and ended up with 48 wounds.
He didn't die, but
Yeah, he didn't die.
It was amazing. It really was. At least each one of my scenes that I've run, there's been at least 1 or 2 things players have done that were just amazing. That was one of them.
Then we did some cave action where the players boarded a boat, went to a cave, and did stuff. We've learned that.
They still want a piece of that crab.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the crab captain?
That boat captain, I don't know. I mean, you played him perfect. He was just a salty boat captain. But by the end of it, like 3 different PCs came to me and said, okay, so where do we find this guy after the boat trip?
Not all crab. So we had what? Moto, Ide, Badger, Hare, Sparrow, Kasuga, and Scorpion. Yogo, I think, right?
Yes, the Yoga was there. Mm-hmm.
All travel out there. My mental pacing and Tolta's mental pacing are different, so we had some disagreements on what should happen when. I tend to rush off compared to what Tolta does. So yeah, that was fun. But
it happens. We're getting used to each other too. It's a learning for everybody.
Yep. So when we do scenes, we're better about that. But during the boat trip, the crab, and he happens to be a boat captain, so he has to sing, which he rolls a 12 on, and fails completely. The sparrow tells a story of stuff, and the crab has to one-up him, because I once caught a fish this big. And the Moto does or says something, and the crab captain just has to insult him by calling him a dirty milk drinker. It's just
And
overall,
that is going to be a joke. That right there will be a joke for the rest of the chat. Just watch.
because it does get brought up a bunch after that scene. But yeah, then what happens inside the cave? Tolta?
Well, it was when they got there. It was I told them it looked like a giant eye because I throw in little details like that in case I need a hook for later. I ended up closing this scene so I didn't have to worry about that. But they go into this cave and they find some crates and they find a couple of jars and the place is covered in maho. It's no good. It's no good at all. They get ambushed by some spirit spider looking things. Kind of look like scorpions. And they take those two out so fast. I mean, I didn't even get to hardly hurt anybody. Then one of them finds the urns while one of them finds the boxes. They break open one of the crates, and inside is a little girl. So the sparrow ends up grabbing the kid. This is a whole different story. But the sparrow ends up grabbing the kid, and the Yogo is looking at the ward inside the box. The bunny grabs one of the urns, and the room cracks, and it starts filling with water because the tide comes in. And everybody has to rush out of the cave. Everybody makes it out all right. Bunny's out first. The Badger's going last because he wants to grab the last two crates and bring them with him. He brings them. I told him it's going to increase the TN on his roll. He says he doesn't care. He's bringing them anyway. I said, all right. He rolled and he failed. And he said, okay, I'm going to re-roll that because he has his re-roll, and he failed. So he started drowning. The second round, he failed twice. The third round, he dropped the boxes and went for himself. That is something I've brought up to the player, but I don't think either one of us want to pursue that because the original intent is there were people in the boxes. And it was mentioned to him, but I don't think we're going to go that direction. So it ended up being they saved the kid who's now clingy to the sparrow. Everybody got home. They killed some stuff. They're unraveling the plot. They took out the, quote, hideout.
And the Moto was pretty beefy in that scene, I think. He was swimming through some water with like his heavy armor, or riding armor, I think, on. He's rolling pretty well.
Wasn't it the Moto that dove in and saved the sparrow?
Yeah, it was.
That scene, the description coming in, the description of the room, the swim afterwards, all of that was the fun stuff. The combat ended up being just kind of combat. Everything else was exciting.
We get some finalization. So after the initial announcement and support for various candidates, Seb and Jin decided to meet with everyone who pledged support to various factions. It's like, hey, I'm Scorpion, I pledge for Sparrow. I am Crab, I pledge for Sparrow. So Seb and Jin, the NPC Imperial Matchmaker, leader of the Separate Astrologist, went around to make sure everyone is okay with this, who they support, because politics happens, your support changes. And let me go back over Sub and Jim. Sub and Jim is the Imperial Matchmaker for the air. He is the leader of the Separate Astrologists. He's not meant to be a asshole or anything like that. He wasn't like that week 1, but week 2 he wanted to evoke the true feelings and true meanings behind why everyone voted the way they did. So he decided to be kind of an asshole to really evoke the emotion and honesty of people. So for week 2, he went around and talked to various players who did support the Sparrow, the Dragon, the Crane. Because the Dragon and Unicorn did not originally support a Dragon candidate. They supported the Sparrow. They later changed their votes after the Miyamoto call-out and some backroom politics happened, So now the dragon and unicorn support a dragon candidate. Kasuga had to change his because we triggered the disadvantage on that also. His obligation disadvantage. So he has to support the crane now. Because the crane always had to run for the betrothal of the heir. Because, you know, most Hantais married the crane. Tradition and all that.
Yeah.
Sadly, the Atomo that has an obligation over the Kasuga and Sep and Jin don't get along. So the Atomo uses the Kasuga as his plaything. And
Pretty much, yeah.
so Sep and Jin decides to break the Atomo's toys, which happens to be the Kasuga. Now, the Kasuga is just a normal courtier, nothing special. So I decided to give him a very unique advantage as a disadvantage. We rolled a contested void because I wanted this to be treated as a disadvantage. I decided to use the Seven Astrologer's Path, which allows me to give a spiritual advantage or disadvantage to another person. This can get really, really bad or really, really good, depending on what it is. So I decided to give the Kasuga Ishikendo. While the Kasuga is a courtier not a Shigenja, therefore a dish allowing him to cast void spells, he gets all the social ramifications and role-playing ramifications of being able to see the void, the everything and nothingness between the elements. This got played up in a boat scene where you could see the elements flowing into a zombie and out all tainted and just terrible. Had him roll against a team 15 or 20, but he failed and he decided to puke. Because we have the Void Overload optional roll. For the Kasuga, we're just planned for whenever he uses a Void point.
Yeah, and in the last scene I ran, this technically falls under week 3, but week 3. He was playing it up really well. He used like 3 or 4 void points in the scene, and every single time he started drooling and like doing weird stuff due to the void point usage.
Because you have to be trained to not be driven insane by the void. That's why you have the Ishigendo advantage to demonstrate that. So yeah, then we had a whole bunch of support: the Scorpion, Sparrow, Crab, Badger, all support the Sparrow as a candidate. After that, the Goju, disguised as just as a normal samurai, deliver a note to the person who has the disadvantage, haunted by lying darkness. And it's just saying, hey, we miss you, we want you to have you back, we love you, just come join us. And
That's particularly sinister of you.
Because not everything about lying darkness has to be overt, does not have to be body horror. It has to be subtle, it has to be insidious, it has to get at the very fiber of your being. Because the backstory of this player is abandonment, of sadness. So I'm getting at that. Like, her parents are wanting her back and want to love him or her. That's the entire thing, is impersonate that weakness, exploit it, and drag him in that way. That's how I played Lying Darkness. Then in week 2, the Yasuki Daimyos meet up, because in the story for Winter Court Kayun Hida is that we have the Crab claim to Yasuki lands and the Crane claim to Yasuki lands. So we have 2 daimyos of the Yasuki at Winter Court. The Yasuki daimyos kind of have a sparring match of words. Insults get spread back and forth. The Crab side gets some really, really just cutting stories and cutting insults out way on. But he pretends he drinks too much, ends up failing a roll, and just, and being very belligerent and insulting. So a duel gets issued to between the daimyos. The Crane daimyo had his personal Kikita with him, because if you're Crane, you have your own personal political assassin, which happens to be Kikita. But then we had a Crab player there who is the duelist for the Crab faction, come to the defense of the Yasuki daimyo, the Crab side anyway. And they had a duel in the streets. First blood, whatever. I built the Kikita duelist how I would build a Kikita duelist with 150 XP. 4 void, high air, high fire. 5 Aijitsu and 5 Kenjutsu. Pretty good build. He ends up losing to the Crab by a lot. The Crab rolls like 72 and the Crane only rolls a 40 on his focus. This gives the Crab enough free raises for knockdown. So he ends up striking him and shoulder checking the Crane to the ground. Because the Crane has nothing in water, nothing in earth. So he just cannot stand up. So the Crab Yusuke tells the
It was Akita.
Yeah, the Kikita, one last insult. Hey, I will accept the apology from your charge at court tomorrow. Because he won't just accept it right then and there. He wants to insult the Kikita, the Crane Yusuke, hard and in public, which we still have to do at some point. Because I don't think we've done that yet, Tilda.
We haven't, but it also could be put into rumors or something that we haven't done it for a reason. Like, if I was a Crane, I'd be putting that off as hard as I could.
Yep. And that's just something that we've kind of forgotten about, and kind of why break weeks happen, so we can go back over everything and figure out, oh, hey, we missed this. Oh, hey, we need to touch this. Yeah, I think that was all of week 2, right?
I know I ran 4 boat scenes and 2 military scenes over the course of the 2 weeks. I just don't know where they fit in.
Oh, week 2, you did the over-the-wall scout scene with the Matsu and that weird splitting Oni thing.
And it was supposed to be easy, but real life commitments took away 2 of the players or something right before they went. And I did not expect that, but they got wrecked so hard.
Yeah, you were looking for a certain class of player who hyper-optimizes their characters. And
it was very much learning for both of us, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really a lot of how what our experience is. We're used to a certain type of player in this type of game, and none of our players are like that. They are just amazing in everything that they do.
Thanks the Kami.
But yeah, here we are on to week 3. What all has happened week 3?
I ran a scene yesterday, or the beginning of week 3. Basically, started out at the public house, with everyone just hanging out, and there was some Ronin there and some Akitsuki and some sailors, some Crane sailors. But everyone pretty much immediately noticed that the Crane sailors were sporting some Crane Yasuki Mons. So everyone, immediately sprung on that, and the Crane sailors took off. The Ronin happened to take off, and the players, soon followed after with the Kitsuki in tow. They followed them till they got to some like laundry, like Heyman shop, It was during the night, so everything was shut down. But they found the uniforms there, and they figured out like, oh, these were just disguises. Um, at that point, the party kind of split with some people following a trail that the guys in disguises have left, and one person following the Ronin. Um, in the end, they followed the guys in disguises to a warehouse where they were talking to their supposed boss. Um, and the funny thing is that the Miyamoto has the disadvantage overconfident. So his character was really like angered that these this the dishonor and the crime, I guess, was being committed. So he really wanted to just take him on there, but there was only one Bushi in the party, and it was him. So um, everyone in the party was like, "Hey, no, calm down," And it was pretty close. He was pretty close to engaging, a huge group of guys, without the proper support. It could have very well ended up in some kind of party wipe, but luckily the other players talked him down. It was pretty interesting though.
Which was another great unplanned scene, because I'm looking at our week 3 plans. It is a Tournament of Ruby Championship Investigation, and the this is where we split the spheres this week.
Indeed, yeah.
I did run a couple of them that I forgot. There's actually been 2 different military scenes. The first one was the scouting mission against the Split Oni, but the other one was I had the Asawa and the Matsu, and they investigated rice shortage.
But that was week 2, not week 3.
Yep, trying to remember. I didn't write week next to mine because I'm smart like that.
Yep. Oh, so on week 3, the march to Shirahuma happens. This is where we split military sphere and political sphere.
Did we mention the B team finale? That whole B team thing?
We did not. But that happened Saturday, right? On week 2?
Yeah, it was at the very end of week 2, I want to say. Something like that.
Yeah, so we have to talk about that. So let's go ahead and talk about that before we expand more into week 3.
The finale was just basically here you guys go, you know where you're going, go out there and get this guy. And they had to go into a cave, so I gave them the cinematic riding in with the sun rising behind you so the enemy can't see you coming kind of thing. So they got to leap off the boat and do all kinds of damage to the bad guys by surprising them for once. Inside, they ended up fighting the Tsukai, and that was just an unbelievable world of hurt. You had the Maho Ward, that whenever you're not part of the cult and you walk inside the room, it does 4k3 damage. Nasty, nasty thing. But the problem was his favorite spell was the one that makes your earth lower. He ended up wrecking 3 characters, killing 2 of them, just by casting that one spell 3 times.
But before this, they had to face some zombies and Dark Moto.
Those 2 Dark Moto put up a pretty good fight, too.
They were just great. No, the players completely dismantled them hard. It was pretty amazing.
It was the Sparrow and was it the Yogo who died in the scene?
In the against Mayo Sukai, yes. But
yeah,
the
rabbit got wrecked for like the 3rd time.
But did not die.
Yeah, he seems to be pretty lucky, and that's funny.
So in Tales of Rokugan, we have a system called Close Calls. So that people don't all take Great Destiny or Dark Fate, anything like that. A close call is if your character dies, they don't actually die. You can call a close call, which we will apply a whole bunch of disadvantages to your character instead of dying. This can only happen once during a character's lifetime. The way that Dark Fate and Great Destiny ties into this is it's instead of once per lifetime, it's once per season. That's our changes to Great Destiny and Dark Fate. But yeah, and the spell that Tolta's talking about is a melee spell that lowers your earth from whatever it is down to 1. And that just, hey, if you take more than 24 hit points of damage, you're dead.
That and the ward that was dealing damage put them all to immediate death or critical, basically, each spell.
Yeah.
But now, those guys that have gone have seen what Maho can do, and I'm getting some interesting questions.
Yeah, but that was still finishing up in week 2. Yeah, we ran a ton of scenes in week 2.
Don't forget the Karasu Ronin deciding that he needs to jump off the wall scene. He was my first tainting.
Oh yeah, so Karasu is a Ronin in Rokugan. He has a sworn enemy, which is his father, who is a Bayushi. They meet on the wall. They have a duel to the death. But instead of the Karasu loses the duel and gets pretty messed up. But instead of losing, and dying and having to do a close call that way, but because we don't really allow close calls for death duels, you usually end up having to seppuku afterwards, so you get to say some goodbyes to players. Is how we're usually going to handle it in main game and whatnot. But here, he said, screw that. He grabbed his sworn enemy and threw himself and his sworn enemy over the side of the wall. He used his close call to come back to this side of the wall. He gained a whole bunch of disadvantages. We did enjoy that scene in week 2. God, so much stuff happened in week 2.
Yeah, week 2 was rather eventful.
Alright, so now actually on to week 3. So we started off the week with Ruby Championship. We had to do the next week of that. We already did Lore Law. This was going to be Investigation. I decided to air it at a certain time, but I had a bunch of players. I had some time to kill, so before that scene could happen, we had to do the follow-up to the Hair, Air, and Crab love scene, or dating scene that we had the previous week. But this is also when we split the spheres. So the Crab had to march with the armies south to Shiraruma. The Hair Air has true love and did not want to spend a void point, so he decided to follow her, joining the army and going to Shiraruma with his love. He did not tell his mother, and he took the ancestral sword of the Hair with him. And this blew up at court before we could do Ruby Championship. The champion of the Hair came in, asked around, say, hey, where the hell's my son? Kunijuro came in and said, oh, your son went south. And she kind of went hysteric. And that was an interesting scene, to say the least. And one of our players, the Usagi Ko, decided to, hey, I'm going to switch back from military sphere to political, then from political back to military sphere, so I can go grab the Hair Air and the ancestral sword of the bunny. So then we had the test of Ruby Championship investigation with Karasu this time, and he just wiped the floor. Every single test, just hit it, amazing. Other players, not so much. One of the more interesting things is calligraphy has a unique emphasis called cipher. So I did a normal Caesarean cipher shift and had a phrase set up, copied that over to an image, copied that, and sent that in. And so I told the players, hey, you can solve this yourself, or you can roll to solve this. Something like that I would probably do as a form event next time so that players could test themselves more easily that way. But they all rolled. Most of them got it wrong, except for Karasu, who just blew it out of the water. And he ultimately won the test of Ruby Championship, the investigation portion, and is now in the lead. Because a four-way tie, everyone get a point. You winning, you get 2 points, so he's now in the lead. Then Tota, you did a ogre scene yesterday, did you not?
I did. It was the first little military since the split, the first actual military drop-in scene, and I ended up getting the Caillou that was like 6'8" or something, huge crab, and the Badger. So I had two strength guys. I had originally intended to run something like different, completely different than what I ran, but when I got those two, and they were the only two online at the time, I went ahead and decided that I was going to do something more custom to them, and I went ahead and threw ogres in there. They ended up talking to the ogre king, and because of the way the players handled it, the Caillou spoke very respectfully to the king. Like, he even bowed to this ogre king because it was a quote ogre king, and he spoke to him respectfully because the guy could speak the Rokugani language perfectly clear, so he knew the guy had an idea of what's going on. So after all the talk and everything else, they ended up fighting. I forget his name. It was like Ugu or something, some big champion of the ogres in unarmed combat. He won. They spoke to the king. Now, one of the side plots was you guys are going to get overrun by ogres at some point. That's gone. He's now saved them. So it's just put out there that, hey, this guy did something really good.
And I don't think, and like this is Wednesday or Thursday of week 3. For week 3, we've been fairly slow because, boy, week 2 was just hectic. But we have a few more things planned here and there, but I think that's everything so far, right?
Yeah, that sounds like about it. We're caught up.
Yeah, so we're probably just going to finish off the Who Marries the Heir this week. That's something I want to kind of crack down on. That's something that happened this week that I forgot about, is Akoto wanted to play 40k with people. So we have Akoto Shimizu Otori, vassal family daimyo of the Shimizu family, aide to the champion of the Akoto, and of the lion, and whatever. He was instructed by the champion to teach leadership and battlefield theory to other clans as a way of reaching out. This Akoto, Atori, Shimizu, hates this fucking idea. Just hates dealing with lesser clans, because line number 1 best clan, every other clan is trash. So we set up the scene. Originally it's just going to be like a 2v2 where it's 2 players versus 2 players, and then then the winners of that get to face off against each other, then winner of that gets to face the line. But it ended up being 2v3, where you had 2 players on one side and 2 players on the other. It ended up being Hida Kozen, Ichiro, and Aide on one side, with Kasuga and I forget, and the dragon on one side. So I decided to do a 3v3, where Dragon and Kasuga would both hold the flanks, and the Akoto would hold the center. The same would go to the other side. The Ichiro would be the center, Aide on one side, and Hida on the other. First round, the Akoto is just overskilled for this. I did not build him to face other players. I made him to be a big bad, not a player threat, so he is overleveled. So first round, he's an asshole, 2 raises, and sacrifices his 2 allies so he doesn't get hurt. More rounds happen, because we're doing mass battle but modified somewhat, because he's using 40k miniatures has a big ass rollout mat, a whole bunch of detailed miniatures. It was a fun setup. Round happen. It ends up being the Ide versus the Akodo. The unicorn had been back for about 150 years, still milk drinking gaijin mess. The Ide rolls spectacularly. The Akodo just rolls like nothing but ones and loses. Like it's down to one roll versus one roll. And Akodo loses his stop and gets real goddamn angry. Because how dare he lose to the unicorn? And so he starts being quite angry. Then a Karasu, the Ronin, after falling off the mountain, comes back, first scene back. 10 minutes in, says, hey, isn't everything in the warfare, including deception and tactics, honorable? Because the Akodo blamed Unicorn for using gaijin tactics from gaijin generals. You have a zero status Ronin quoting heretical passages of leadership to a lion who is already super angry. And so I was 50-50 on the Akodo just straight up attacking the Ronin, because that's something that Akodo would do. But this player just CC'd, or close called, just came back, just finally got healed up enough to interact with other players. I think that would be kind of a dick thing to do.
He wasn't even healed up at that point. He was still pretty hurt.
Yeah, he was still like crippled or something. He wasn't down, but he's definitely got crippled. So the Akodo calls the guards and escorts the Ronin to the magistrates to be flogged. Because, hey, you quoted a heretical part of leadership, because dishonorable parts of leadership are considered heresy by Hantai the 10th? Around 400 or so? So that's what happens. Is that character who just, suplexed his sworn enemy off the wall, comes back and gets flogged. Because he decides to get smart with the family daimyo of a vassal family of the line. Because the Rokugan legal system is gross abuse of power and just nepotism all the way through. It is not a good legal system. Then some magic happened to the Ide, but I don't know where that came from. Who knows what all happened to the Ide, but he couldn't sleep for like 3 days. Because of some stuff. Yeah, I think that is actually everything. Unless you guys can think of anything else we've missed.
I ran I ran something related to that Akodo during week 2, actually. A Ronin, just random Ronin, wasn't even part of the Winter Court. Was in Earthquake Fish Bay in the market. And for some reason she was serving noodles like a peasant or commoner would, and that attracted the attention of a bunch of the players who were in the scene. They found out that this Ronin, for whatever reason they became a Ronin, was basically influenced by monks to pick up an ascetic life and help out the common people, etc. That was just the first scene. Following up that, a lion Akodo, an Akodo Bushi was by the noodle stand in the market and happened to see the Ronin, and they had a slight confrontation where the Akodo was surprised at seeing this Ronin for some reason, and the Akodo revealed that the Ronin was a former lion and was apparently wanted or something for some reason by the Akodo, the Shimizu that we were just talking about, and the Akodo, like a bunch of the players noticed, they all rolled unusually well. That the Akodo was really hesitant about it and like was getting really emotional about this. Um, and at that point, the players stepped in and started talking at the lion. And at that point, the Ronin was given a chance to escape, so she booked it out of there. And that was really funny because the Moto, which ended up being Iide's Yojimbo, got into a really heated argument with the lion. But it was just funny to see, and the players eventually caught up with the Ronin at a shrine and talked it out, and she revealed that she was a former Akoma that had somehow either insulted or did something to piss off the Akodo. So he basically was ordered to have her killed, but she got away somehow, and was raised by monks that basically saved her life, and that led to the asceticism and everything. And it turns out that the Akodo that they encountered earlier was her twin sister, and they figured that she didn't really want to turn her sister into the Akodo, being the crazy monster that he is or whatever.
He's not a crazy monster. He's an honorable samurai. She was
Well,
he is honorable. He is a samurai. He works exclusively for his lord. It's just every other clan is worthless compared to the lion.
but yeah, like in the end, they helped the Ronin, get out of town basically, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a little bit after, but I don't want to give too much away. That's something that has it's unlikely, but it might come up later.
Toto, can you think of anything else?
I don't think so. I'm thinking back over it. There was a little drop-in bar scene where I also attempted to do a bar fight. I don't remember who was there, but it went from me swinging a chair at somebody to players pulling weapons. So it was supposed to be something cute, and the players took it to way lethal levels, like instantly. So that was interesting.
Well, when everyone carries around 3 foot long, razor sharp steel blades, that's going to happen.
Yeah, it was an interesting curiosity to me that there was such an escalation instantly. Normally there's that slow, gradual upturn.
But yeah, that was so far Act 1. We still have to do a couple things here and there. But Week 3 is turning out to be a bit slower than Week 2, and we are finishing up Who Will Marry the Heir? Could it be the Sparrow? Could it be a dragon? Or is it just going to be another crane bride?